wife was, I would say, about 8 months pregnant, and we knew that we wanted to start going to church a lot more than what we were doing, and I wanted to raise my son up in a church, and I wanted him to have a church family and just kind of do the things a good parent should do. And we started coming to this church. My wife's mother started coming here, and she had been inviting us for a long time. We finally came one day, and a week after Gavin was born, we got a letter in the mail with some flowers from this church. And I had only come here once, but it showed me, wow, the church actually thought about us and really had us in their thoughts. We started coming to this church a lot, and the one thing I liked about this church was the fact that everyone prayed for one another, and I could see the love from our pastor and from the leadership and just from the congregation. At the time, I was a crew leader for a fence company. I had been with the company for a few years. I have always been a huge believer in the fact that in all things that you do, whether it's working or studying or whatever you're doing, you do all things unto the Lord. And in the back of my head, I was always pretending that I was doing Jesus's fence, and always just trying to get the people extremely happy. And I had made a decision that I was going to work hard and provide for my family, and whatever I had to do, whether that was digging holes or being a waiter or however it was, I was just going to do my best and put it all in God's hands. Pastor was preaching one day, and it was a particular month, and it was called the Month of Miracles. The pastor told us, hey, expect some people in this congregation expect things this month. Things are going to happen. It started off, we were looking for a house, and for 2 years we had been looking and trying, and we didn't have everything that we needed. Our credit score wasn't where it was at. We didn't have the down payment, and one of the realtors actually came to this church, and she told us that she had received her real estate license and that she wanted to help us out. So I definitely took it by faith to be her first customer as far as her first house or first client. Within a few months, everything worked out, and we ended up getting a house during that month. And just trusting the Lord that, I'm going to have a job that, I could, potentially take care of my family and have a little bit more hours to hang out with my wife and, my son. And I had actually prayed to God almost, I would say, at least 2 or 3 times a week. By the time Gavin's 5, I want to have a job to where I'm off at 5 o'clock every day to where I can take him to practice. And that was a real prayer that I really, I wanted to see happen, because, with being an installer, I would get to the job at 6:30 in the morning, and there'd be days where I would get home at 6:45, 7:30. So, I was just always working. A few days after we received the house, my boss comes in, and tells me, hey, Ralph, I want to talk to you in the office. And, me thinking, oh my gosh, like, what did I do? I was kind of nervous, and my sales manager was there, the operations manager was there, and the owner was there. And so it was in September, and my boss told me, hey, listen, in mid-September, we're going to take you off the crew lead, and you're going to start sales. What Pastor had said for that month, and the fact that my initial feeling of just knowing that God had everything in control, just the follow through of that, I think was the best feeling you could ever feel. People constantly bringing your name to the Lord. I don't see any better situation than what my family has with this church and what my family has with God. And I really wanted to see, be able to be the one that takes my son, to his practices. And it was just all that in one moment, kind of just coming down to the fact that, God had me in his arms.
This testimony is typical of the many things God is doing at First Assembly in Fleming Island.